Well, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, and good night, and all of which apply to wherever you're watching. So, I want to thank you for stopping on by to another Wilhelm the Esoteric video. So, for today's video, we're going to talk about a subject matter that's quite deep and quite intense and comes from our childhood traumas and from a lot of the things we pick up along the way. I'm sure some of you watching have heard that our childhood is almost like a blueprint to who we're going to be when we become adults. Childhood is a really critical time for our life. It doesn't mean we can't change, but what we go through, what we lack, what we have too much of, what we focus on, what people have come into our lives, what situations have we been dealt? What things have we gone through? Have we been betrayed a lot? Have we had a lot of nurturing? Have we had a lot of love? Have we lacked a lot of love? This could be different for everybody, and for every era of our life, this can change. And sometimes a lot of us have to endure a lot of suffering and hardship. So for this video, we're going to talk about the Enneagram test. Now, the Enneagram is a tool that psychologists, therapists, and counselors of all sorts from around the world use. And it's based off of ancient principles and a collaboration of different schools of thought, of philosophy, and of mental health within the social sciences. Life is made up of different avenues, and these different avenues bring forth different insight that we can learn to adapt and to modify to fit our needs and necessities as a society as a whole, which is why I wanted to make this video, so we can see what our strengths, what our weaknesses are. Now, the Enneagram has 9 numbers, and out of these 9 numbers, each of these 9 numbers represents different sorts of cognitive skills, if you will, different sorts of strengths and weaknesses in areas of focus. And these areas are developed in different ways for different people throughout different parts of their life, especially when they're growing up. The parenting of the individual is critical and really conditions the individual on what to focus. And this is because of an overindulgence in certain things, perhaps a lack of certain things, and different means of the sort. This varies from individual to individual and is the uniqueness of each and every person. Out of these 9 numbers, we have a foundational number. And out of these 9 numbers comes a set of 3s, if you will. Out of these numbers, sometimes across or sometimes right below, our Enneagram number, when we're feeling stressed or when we're feeling happy or content, will go and become one of these other numbers that's across or perhaps right below it. So, this varies from person to person, and just because your Enneagram number goes from one number to the other doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. Sometimes we go to certain numbers when we're not feeling too good or when we're feeling great. Vice versa. We can take in negative connotation from either of the across numbers that we go to. Now we move on to the wing part of the Enneagram. As you see in the picture above, Enneagram numbers have their wings. For example, somebody who is a 1, an Enneagram 1 as we see here, might be an Enneagram 1 W2 or W9. What does that mean? It means that Enneagram 1 might be more towards the Enneagram 2, meaning that Enneagram 1 might be an Enneagram 1 in foundation, but at the same time it's going to have Enneagram 2 type of characteristics. Or the other way around, the Enneagram 1, if it has a strong wing for the 9, that Enneagram 1 is going to be very much like the Enneagram 9. So we need to be on the lookout for some of these characteristics. It's really helpful to get to know all of them. There's this book I really recommend called The Complete Enneagram, 27 Paths to Greater Self-Knowledge by Beatrice Chestnut, PhD. Anyway, this video is for everyone, regardless of whether you have ADHD or not. But for those of us with ADHD, these problems might be a lot more consistent. You might have to be on the lookout for these issues to come up more and more. And if you have an issue with rejection-sensitive dysphoria, it's the type of difficulty people with ADHD have, that they have difficulty with rejection. They have difficulty with feeling like they let somebody down, or like somebody let them down. And it feels really devastating. And sometimes they don't want to do an activity or see a person again for years, for days, for months, or sometimes even forever. It makes friendship really hard. So, something to bear in mind. There should be a link above if you want to check out a video on RSD. And for those of you who want to find out, how do I work on rejection-sensitive dysphoria? I know what it is. I just don't know what to do when it comes up. How do I address it? Well, there's a link up above of a video I made addressing those issues. How to handle it when you're going through it, how to handle it after the fact, and how to prepare for the next time rejection-sensitive dysphoria hits. Should be a link above if you want to check that out. So I just want to reiterate with the fact that depending on your Enneagram number, some of these points might not relate to you. Or they might relate to you a little bit, some more than others, and some perhaps not at all, and that's okay. That's because we're all completely different. If you enter this with an open mind and an open heart, I truly believe you can learn a lot of stuff and you can improve the quality of your life. And if you have a partner who you know is one of these Enneagram numbers, perhaps this can make a difference for them, and hopefully you can help them improve. I would urge you to please share this with somebody if you feel this content is of some help. It could really make a difference. Anyway, the point here is to bring help and to bring insight. I truly hope that this information brings you, a friend, a family member, or a loved one, some insight and some help. We just have to come into this with an open heart and with an open mind. Now for this video today, we're going to be going over the Enneagrams 8, 9, and 1. These are the guttural, the gut types. The types that have a, how would we call this? A body center. The gut of a body is where the Enneagram 8, 9, and 1 get their power from. The Enneagram 8 is a really strong challenger amongst the three. The Enneagram 9 is more of the helper of the three, but at the same time will stand up for itself very fiercely if the Enneagram 9 feels the need to. And then we also have the Enneagram 1. The Enneagram 1 is the one that really goes out of their way to make sure that the necessities and things required growing up were always done for mother, father, or whoever the caretaker was. At the same time, disregarding who they were. Because of that, there's a lot of anger and resentment underneath the actions and thoughts of the Enneagram 1. The Enneagram 8 will just tell you straight up that they're upset and they might get really intense. The Enneagram 9 depends on the subject matter, but it can get pretty brutal. Point being, the center of this is anger from the gut, a feeling of intensity. It doesn't have to be bad. These numbers are driven by an intensity, a need to correct and go against what they feel is wrong, and to sometimes, or a lot of the time, stand up for those they feel are worthy of being stood up for, whether that be family, friends, or colleagues, or individuals who are misrepresented or underrepresented in society. These three numbers are known to be helpers and protectors of those they feel and deem worthy. But at the same time comes a reluctance to look at the insecurity, the vulnerability, the weaknesses of the self, because the gut, the internal strength part sometimes doesn't let us reflect on that, because we sometimes have difficulty viewing ourselves as weak or as needing something or needing a lot of something. So it's okay. It's really strong. A lot of Enneagram 8s, 9s, and 1s have grown up in families where they really have had to bust their chops and really have had to sometimes, or a lot of the time, overwork themselves. And my hat goes off to each and every person watching who's an Enneagram 8, 9, or 1. After studying these Enneagram numbers and having many close family and friends and colleagues who are Enneagram 8s, 9s, and 1s, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with being these numbers. Sometimes nobody else is going to be there to help them out, and they have to take on the bull by the horns by themselves sometimes. But sometimes they just feel like they do. And in reality, they actually have more help than they'd like to think or than they perhaps know. And that's because of not knowing the vulnerability of the self. We have to know the pros, but we also have to know the cons. We have to know our strengths, we have to know our weaknesses, and we have to aim to improve upon both of them. We have to go to that negative headspace and be like, man, what do I need? I need to stand up for myself. I can't handle it right now, and I need to say that this is too much for me. That's really hard sometimes. And that's exactly what this video is for us to learn our strengths and weaknesses and how to improve as an individual so we can be the best us that we can be. So if you are an Enneagram 8, 9, or 1, listen closely. Have an open heart and an open mind. Let's take this ride together. The Enneagram. Some main themes of the Enneagram would include: likes to do things correctly and to high standards. Enneagram 1s are known to be sticklers for rules and pay close attention to detail. They also avoid making mistakes. To others, they appear perfectionistic, responsible, and exacting. 1s are typically sticklers for rules and details and get frustrated when things don't live up to their very high standards at work, in relationships, or in their day-to-day lives. Some core identifications of the Enneagram 1 include serious and straightforward during conversations, attuned to practicality and frugality, hardworking and diligent as employees, high internal standards, rigidity in plans and decisions, intense ability to concentrate, natural talent for teaching and instructing. But with this comes the basic fear of the Enneagram 1. 1's fear being bad people, morally flawed, or otherwise seen as imperfect. They cope with this fear by being rigidly disciplined and very hard on themselves, and often those around them too. The basic desire of the Enneagram 1, Enneagram 1s strive to be good and honorable and to live a life with purpose. They seek to be the best and most correct. They seek to do things in the best and most correct way and manner. The invitation to abundance, the balance of the self of the Enneagram 1 includes something like this: to live for a higher purpose, remembering that it is in your nature to be wise and discerning. You should allow yourself to have more fun. I should allow myself to open up more about my inner world. When will the Enneagram 1 become present in their life? An Enneagram 1 might say to themselves something like, I won't become present to my life fully until I have attained complete balance and integrity, make no mistakes, and have everything in my world sensibly organized. When I have achieved perfection, then I'll show up. The marching orders for the Enneagram 1 might go something like this. This is something an Enneagram 1 might say to themselves. You're good or okay if you do what is right. Simple, right? But there's a big contradiction to this. Sounds reasonable. But how do you know what is right? Who says so? Is your set of standards objective or subjective? Where did these ideas come from? Ones struggle to be good, but they're never good enough for their own super egos. That's right. There's such a high standard that some ones have for themselves that they can't even meet their own expectations and standards, and with that can come a lot of problems and a lot of issues. As part of the gut triad, imagine yourself in a scenario where you don't come through, where you don't complete the task, where you leave something left to error, something you overlooked. You might beat yourself up, you might feel tense on the inside, and that's that gut feeling talking to you. That's that gut feeling coming to life. And that's when your shoulders get really high up. And when you get really tense and you tell yourself, why wasn't I good enough? Why couldn't I do what I needed to do? That comes from an upbringing that was perhaps too intense at a young age, where you felt like it was your responsibility to come through for your family, to come through for your mom, to come through for your dad. That if you didn't do your best, if you didn't deliver your best, everything was going to go horrible. I'm here to tell you that is not true. We have to learn to overcome those anxieties and that trauma that we had when we were younger. A healing attitude is something that can really make a difference in the life of an Enneagram 1. A healing attitude for the Enneagram 1 might sound something like this. Maybe others are right. Maybe someone else has a better idea. Maybe others will learn for themselves. Maybe I've done all that can be done. It is perfectly okay for me to share my inner world with others I trust and care for. Humans make mistakes, and I am a human. So therefore, it's perfectly fine if I mess up or make mistakes here and there. Same goes for other people. Enneagram 1s. Known to be the ones that seek to do good and do the right thing to satisfy an urgent need to be virtuous and responsible, to avoid fault and blame. This drive provides a defense, protection in a world that demands and rewards good behavior and punishes bad behavior. This archetype also exists as the superego, that part of the psyche that stands in for the parental voice of authority. This internal force exercises its power to tame the excesses born of raw impulses, animal instinct, and unrestricted forms of self-interested self-expression. Type 1s are thus the prototype for that part in all of us that strives to match the high standards of good behavior as a way of proving ourselves worthy and avoiding blame and fault. I'm here to tell you that is a helpful way of viewing life, but can also be a very flawed way of looking at life. The type 1 personality defends against criticism, real or threatened or imagined, shame and punish them for being wrong or bad. Type 1 personalities defend against criticism, real or threatened, and shame or punishment for being wrong or bad. Ones often report that they experience pressure early in life to do something well or correct at a time when they were too young to take on the burden of this responsibility. This experience of criticism from parental figures or others creates an anxious sense in the young. 1, that there is a right way to do things. Doing the right thing and striving for faultless performance inspires supportive feedback and positive feelings. Some ones experience this early responsibility because they lacked structural support or psychological holding in their childhood environment. Chaos or uncertainty or anxiety came when things were not done right. And this creates this sense of anxiety and paranoia. If you feel you have to do something something that might not be done. They're looking, they're gonna judge. I'm not worthy. Those instances in your mind and in your head have to do with a time when you were a little girl, a little boy, a little kid, whatever. When you were young, at a time when you weren't ready, when you felt like all the responsibility was on you and on your shoulders. Here to tell you, you did an amazing job for being so young and being able to do that. I'm here to tell you, you did an amazing job for being so young and being able to do that. It takes a lot of courage and determination, but at the same time, you got to have that same courage and determination to take it easy on yourself and take it easy sometimes on your loved ones. As an Enneagram 1, you have a lot of love and you have a lot of discipline in your life, but don't overdo it on yourself. The beauty in life comes sometimes from spontaneity, from not planning, from just going with the flow, and for sometimes just sharing what you really feel about stuff. Not letting, oh hey, how's this person gonna feel if I share this? Well, if they're your friend, your family member, your loved one, and they care about you, hey, sometimes you gotta share some stuff about you some other people aren't gonna like. They're your friends and family, they gotta be cool with it. So I urge you, open up a little more about yourself if you're an Enneagram 1 that feels you haven't had the chance to do that. Enneagram 1s are great and amazing people. They're really disciplined, but sometimes too disciplined. Don't get lost in being disciplined and keeping the order and structure and planning all the time. Sometimes you gotta be a type B person, so to speak. Just chill, mellow out. Don't let stuff have as much intensity as it does, and sometimes that comes from a place of anxiety. So with that, I would say, if you feel anxious during certain moments, like you have to do something, like, oh hey, my friends are coming over, I have to do this, otherwise I'm a failure. Oh, my parents are coming over, if I don't do this, oh, I'm a failure, they're gonna hate me. Take it easy on yourself. No, they're not gonna hate you. No, it's not gonna be over. It might be a little different, but if you are an adult who grew up like that with a parent that was so strict and demanding over you, that you feel now as an adult you can't stand up for yourself, I'm here to tell you you're wrong. You can't stand up for yourself. You just don't have the tenacity or courage to do so yet. I'm here to tell you that I believe in you. I know you can do it. You're part of the body triad. You have that internal gut, the gut feeling of knowing, the gut feeling of taking that drive and inspiration, that same determination that you feel when you feel you have to do something. If you can take that inspiration and drive and apply that to different things, especially in this example, if you can take that drive and determination that you feel with your obligations, if you can make yourself and mellowing out and taking it easy on yourself as the obligation, you'd be amazed how much you can get done. I believe in you, Enneagram 1s. Be the best you that you can be.